Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Hey everybody, welcome to You as a Whole, Body, Mind, and Soul. I'm Justin Mirigliani here on USA Global TV and Radio. Great to have you here tonight. You know, before I even get into tonight, my daughter and I were talking today, and she has to give a speech for school. And one of the things that she asked about was, how do I come up with a topic and for each week, and then talk about that topic and what preparation. And to be honest with you, there really isn't much. I kind of go over my week in my head and think about conversations that I've had with people, or go over something that's been on my mind, and I use that as the jumping off point for what I'm going to talk about. So of course, yeah, that's a skill. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not trying to beat my own drum, but yeah, I mean, that there is a skill there, and I think a lot of people have that skill, especially a priest who gives homilies. Some of them have to plan it. Some of them are right off the top of their head, or people who give impromptu speeches, people who do talk radio, talk TV. A lot of them, it's either planned, or some people don't have to plan it. I'm not one of the people who have to plan it. I could kind of freewheel. So I was having conversations this week with a few people about disappointment. And first of all, what is disappointment? And how much of it is a learning lesson? How much of it is too much? How do you handle disappointment? How you handle disappointment, does that mean everybody else is going to handle disappointment the same way you do? And there's all things that have been coming up in conversations that I've had with people, and also then in my thoughts, because as I do listen to people and try to get their perspective, I start to see how I deal with it. And the first thing that comes to mind when I think about disappointment is disappointing my child or my children. I have two daughters, and even now, as they're older, in their teens, almost my oldest is almost 20. I still don't like to disappoint them. I don't like the feeling of them being disappointed. So he said, "Look at that beard." That's it. It's so. I appreciate it. Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to disappoint your children, and yeah, I know it's a lesson that they need to learn. I think obviously we all need to handle disappointment at some time in our lives, and multiple times in our lives. But and you learn it in a youth, as a youth, but it still doesn't make it easy. So going back probably to where my oldest daughter was, maybe 3, we took her to see Disney on Ice. And there were these colored magic wands. I forget what it was exactly, but it was a toy that lit up, and you can move it all around, and it would light up all over the place. And it was just a neat little toy, but it was one of those toys that you knew was going to break in 5 minutes or within a day or two at tops, and it was $25. So, as a parent, you look at those things and you're like, am I really going to waste money on something that's going to last maybe minutes, maybe days at the most, but not, if it was $5, it's a different story, but this is a $25 toy. And I'll never forget her little eyes looking at me and my wife at the time and saying to us, "Where's mine?" And she didn't realize that not everybody gets one, that only people who buy them and pay the $25 get one. So she's looking around at a lot of kids who have this light up toy. And in her 3-year-old mind, she doesn't get it that there's she's not getting one because it's just not prudent to buy it, because again it was a chintzy type of toy. It wasn't something that was really going to last long, and it was $25. Why would you do that? So we had to explain to her that lesson, but it's, I don't know, 17 years later almost, and it still bothers me. I mean, even 17 years later, I still see that look on her face. I still see those eyes looking at me like, wait, where's mine? And I remember those words, they echo in my ear. And while I could rationally say that that was the right decision, that we disappointed her because A, it was the right thing to do in our mind, and B, she has to learn disappointment at some time. And that was a good lesson in disappointment. It still was painful. It was still hard, and it's still painful now. Now, for her, it's not. If you ask her about it, she barely remembers it, if she remembers it at all. But we joke around about it. But when I think about disappointing my children, that's one of the biggest ones that come up is, where's mine? Um, my youngest daughter, sometimes she's a little rough on things and she has a temper. And I used to too before therapy. My temper was a lot worse. I mean, I still get angry, but I have a lot more control over it than I did before. But she struggles with that, just like I did as a kid and as even as an adult. And she'll break things. And it's a tough, tough lesson to teach that if you break it, you're not going to get another one because you broke it. And you have to live with that disappointment that now you've broken that item and you're not going to get another one. But the dad inside me, the parent inside me, because I'm sure moms feel the same way, is I want to go out and buy another one, especially when you see them crying or see them so down and just out of it. And that's, you're stuck. You're stuck because on the one hand, you're trying to teach a lesson. And on the other hand, you don't like to see your kids in pain. And that's a struggle for me. Um, I, one thing I don't like about well, there's good and bad with everything. I think that everybody knows that. I don't think I'm telling you something that you don't already know. The internet and technology and AI, those are all great things, and they could also be things that aren't so great. And what people say, hey, Claire, I see Claire joined us. Good to have you here, Claire. I think that what happens is we see somebody just like me with a camera in front of them that seems to make people think that they are an expert in whatever they're talking about. And that's not necessarily true. Admittedly, I'm not an expert in parenting. I'm not. All I can go by is what I've seen as I've grown up from my parents, from other parents, and from my experience as a parent. That's it. I can't do anything but go with what I learned. Thanks, Claire. She's giving me the clapping hands. I appreciate it. Glad you're here too. So that's just the way it is. Now, some people may disagree with. Well, I'm sorry, lost track there. Going back to the internet, you get people on there who are so staunch in their opinions about how to do this, how to teach kids how to handle disappointment, and they're so rigid, and they know for sure that there's only one good real way to do it. That's not true. That's not true. Just like anything else, there are multiple ways to get to the same destination, and the way that you get to that destination is the way that you choose to get to that destination. It doesn't mean that one person's always right, one person's wrong. That's not the way it works. And there are people who say, "Oh, well, I'm an expert." Trial and error as a parent. That's what Claire says. We grow as we and learn. Yeah, I really believe that. I think that we do, and we make mistakes, and that's okay. I think that people are afraid of mistakes. I talk to my kids about it. Screw up. It's okay. What if you screw up? Unless you screw up with something that's potentially life threatening, then it can be fixed. If you make a mistake like you drink and drive, or you uh, get into heavy drugs, yeah, I mean that might not be reversible. You might be killed, and no, that's not reversible. But if you pick the wrong school, or if you buy the wrong car, or if you date the wrong person, whatever it is, those are all fixable. So make the mistakes. It's not a big deal. It's not a disaster. You can get through them. But people a lot of times want to say, well, this is the one definitive way that it should be done, and I don't believe that. I really don't. And yeah, I listen to other people. I take their opinions, and I try to make sense of their opinions, but you're not going to get me to agree with you 100% of the time, or I'm not going to agree with somebody just because they have a microphone in front of their face. There are things I see on the internet all the time where people talk about whether it's weight loss, or the topic we're talking about, overcoming disappointment, or how to parent, or how to do this or how to do that, that I just look at and say, this is just nonsense. I don't agree with it whatsoever. But that's okay. And they might watch my show and say, he's nonsense. I don't believe a thing he says. Just because you have a microphone in front of your face, and just because you're on television or on the radio or whatever medium, that doesn't mean you're an expert in everything. It just means that you happen to be lucky enough to be in that position. That's all it means. And you take it for what it is. So my opinion of overcoming disappointment is you just gotta kind of rank disappointment just like you would rank anything else. I mean, what is disappointment as to what's a disaster? Is there a difference between a woman having a miscarriage after a month versus a child being born and dying 6 months after birth? There's a difference. Both are sad, but both are different levels of sadness. There's sadness and disappointment with the first one, right? A miscarriage is terrible. Nobody wants that. But after a month, it's most people would say, okay, this is sad. They'll cry. They'll be depressed. They'll be disappointed, but they might not be devastated. They might be able to shake that off a lot faster than if they lost a kid who was born, and they got to hold, and they got to feel, and they got to know, and the personality of the child. And then 6 months later, they're gone, or a year later, they're gone. There's a difference. I'm not minimizing the first one. I'm not saying that it's not painful. I'm just saying there's a difference. And that's the same thing with disappointment. Dr. Jacqueline could pull the curtain on me and say, we don't want you on TV anymore. Okay, that would be painful. That would be disappointment. Would it be as disappointing as being homeless? No, not at all. And Claire says, I've also learned ways from my parents. Let me try that again. I've also learned from ways my parents raised me. Some things didn't resonate with me. Yeah, I mean, that's fine too. You learn by your parents' mistakes. My parents tell me all the time that they made mistakes. There are things that they would change if they had to do it over again. I've said that. There are things that I wish I had done differently, that I look back and say, I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't the best idea. But I don't. If you find me a perfect parent, then let me know, because they're the ones who should be on TV and writing books, because if they're perfect, and you're not going to find one. That's the main point. You're just not going to find one. So how do you handle disappointment? Well, I mean, people handle it different ways. You know, losing my business over the last year has been disappointing, and it rocked me. It was one of the things that rocked me. There were a lot of things that go on. That's highly disappointing, to start something and have it successful for 23 years and then all of a sudden have it fall apart. Yeah, that hurts. That's disappointing. Um, but it's not as disappointing as not having any income whatsoever, or no prospects for getting another job, or starting another business. There are levels. And yeah, there's mourning for those things. There in that disappointment, there is a mourning period where you go through it, and you struggle, and you wonder why and how, and what could you have done differently. All those things creep into your head, but that's human. That's human. I mean, could there be a parent? I did see this actually, which is, I think, totally ridiculous. And you can take it for what it's worth. You agree or disagree with me. But his kid, he felt, was playing. The kid was playing video games too much, so he went out and got all the video games, and he threw them into a chipper and destroyed all the video games. Just crushed them all up. Now, is that teaching a kid disappointment, or is that going overboard? In my opinion, it's going way overboard. What is that going to do? Is that going to traumatize the kid, or is that going to teach them how to overcome disappointment? I think it's going to traumatize the kid. I mean, where do you draw the line? Do you buy them a toy, and then 2 seconds after they open it, smash it with a sledgehammer? I mean, is that so? Oh, look, I'm teaching you disappointment. There's got to be a middle ground, and that's what I'm not seeing. Claire said, "Thank you, Claire. I admire how you overcome adversity." Yeah, I mean, that's part of the disappointment too. I mean, it's there is adversity, and I try to teach my kids that not everything is going to come out the way you want it all the time. You know, I had surgery on Friday, and it wasn't massive surgery, it wasn't major surgery, but I didn't want to have it. It wasn't something I was like, oh, let's look forward to this. It was, I wouldn't say disappointing, but there was apprehension, at least, that I was going into this. And it went fine. Everything's okay. And now I'm waiting for biopsies. Are there thoughts that the biopsies could come back and be more than what they thought it was, and be a problem that I really have a serious problem? Yeah, I mean, of course that thought is going through my head. I'm trying to keep it out of my head, but it's normal. Now, would that be disappointing? No, that would be devastating to hear news that you have a disease that might potentially kill you. Yeah, I mean, that's more than disappointment. Losing your business is somewhere in the middle. Rainy day when you're going to go to the beach is pretty low. There are levels to disappointment. And sometimes people don't distinguish the difference between what's a major disappointment, what's a tragedy, and what's a minor disappointment. They can't grasp the difference, and there is a difference. It's not linear. It's not all the same thing. Nobody likes to make plans for a picnic and not have good weather. They just don't. Nobody. Now, let's positive. Claire saying positivity only. Yeah, I mean, and that's hard to do. I agree with Claire. You try to be as positive you can, as much as you can. But you know what? You're going to even fail at that once in a while. There are going to be times where you just can't be positive. But you try to keep that as short as possible and not let that last forever. And that's I think the trick is to not get in a rut where I did last year, several months ago, where it was just a rut that just didn't end. It felt like being inside a hole, and it was because I didn't have the tools to be able to get out of the hole. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is the length of time that you allow yourself to be disappointed does also factor in. There's got to be a point where you say, all right, we're going to move on from this, and we're going to do something else. September 14th, what are we talking, 2 months ago? I paid off my car on a Saturday. On September 13th, the next day, the 14th, it was demolished in a car accident. There's disappointment there. I didn't have a car payment anymore for a day. And the car was destroyed in an accident one day after I paid it off. Now, I could still be mad about that in November, 2 months later, or I could say, all right, well, yeah, that stunk. But maybe if I had taken another route home, I would have been killed in an accident that would have been far worse. I mean, maybe I'm just reframing it. I mean, I'll never know. Am I happy that the car was destroyed? I mean, do I even have to answer that? I mean, no, nobody would be happy about that. But what do you do? Do you move on, or do you linger over it forever? Now, if you ask me 2 days after the accident, how angry was I? I was pretty angry. If you asked me 30 seconds after the accident, I was a maniac. I was yelling at the guy, and he had been tailgating me, and he rear-ended me from behind very fast. He was going pretty fast to destroy the car. So yeah, I mean, time is a factor, right? When it first happens, you're livid. When you a couple days later, you're angry. A couple months later, it's annoying, but it's tolerable. You know, and that's like anything else. Time heals wounds. But I just hope that people don't say, well, this is the way everyone needs to handle disappointment. There's one particular way to do it, and this is the only way to do it, or this is the one particular way to teach it, and that's it. Yes, children need to learn how to handle disappointment. I'm not disagreeing with that. But where is the line? Where is that line? Do you throw toys in a chipper? Another guy shot a television, took a flat screen TV that this kid had, and I guess he was angry the kid was either watching too much TV. I don't remember the whole scenario, but he shot and destroyed the television. Now, again, does this make sense? I mean, is that a natural way to teach children how to handle disappointment? Or do you sit down and talk to them when they go through a disappointment? I guess there's schools of thought. I mean, one is you set up the disappointment on purpose so that you could teach them. I don't agree with that. I agree with, or I believe that disappointments are going to come no matter what. So you don't have to create them. And when they come, you talk to your child about it and say, why are you disappointed? What's making you disappointed about this? Why is it bothering you? How much is it bothering you? Why is it bothering you that much? Why doesn't it bother you more? Maybe you would think that they'd be more disappointed or more upset than they're letting on. You have to find out about that. Why are they not as upset as you think they'd be? So let's go with grades. Maybe you have a child who could get a 60 and say, well, I passed. And they're not disappointed at all. They're good with it. D's get degrees, right? Get D's, you'll pass. All right. Some people are like that. Some kids are like that. And then you get kids that if they get an 89, so they don't get an A, they get a B plus, they're ready to jump off a bridge because they're so disappointed that they didn't get an A. The pendulum is too far in both of those situations. Neither one of them are healthy. Neither one. So in that situation, if you have a child who's coming to you and crying that I got an 89 and I'm devastated, my grade's going to go down, I'm not going to have an A plus, and it's not going to be the top grade in the class, it's not going to be the best. Well, that's when you're going to talk to them and say, look, not everything's going to fall your way 100% the way you want it. You got an 89. Did you work hard enough? Did you give it your all? And if the answer is yes, then yeah, that's all you can do. And then you talk to the other child who might get a 60 and be no problem with it. I passed. I got a 60. It's good enough. And then you ask him, did you do your best? No, I didn't do my best. Okay. Well, then why? Why didn't you do your best? Why are you okay with this grade? This is even less than mediocre. Do you want to settle for mediocre in your life? And you talk about it. You try to find out what it is that is allowing them to feel that that's sufficient. Why? What's the reason? It's in the middle ground. I've heard the saying, a hard C is better than an easy A. And that's true. If you work your butt off and you get a C on a test, well, that's a lot more impressive than somebody who could just squeak by, not study, and get an A. I mean, yeah, all right. That's impressive too, I guess, in a way, because that means that they're very, very intelligent. So there's some merit to that. But give me somebody who's a hard worker all the time. There's a saying in sports, and when I played hockey, we said this a lot: will beats skill. Will does beat skill most of the time. If you have the will, you're gonna be on top more than you're gonna be behind. No matter if the other team or the other player is better than you. If they're not giving it everything they have, you got a shot. So your best on every given day is whatever your best is. Now, if you don't give it, then that's your decision. If you give it, then good. And if some days is better than others. When I play hockey now, even as a 50-year-old, some days I'm terrible and other days I'm okay. I'm never great. I mean, just it isn't what it is. I wanted to be an NHL player when I was growing up. That was my dream. I can tell you the date, November 15th, 1984, the day that Flyers retired Bobby Clark's number. Bobby Clark was a superstar in the NHL and just probably the hardest working, best leader in the history of professional sports. And I saw when he had his jersey retired, and that night when the crowd just giving him a standing ovation for, it had to be like 15 minutes. It was tremendous. He actually had to ask them to stop. That's how long it was. And you just look at that like, man, oh man, that's just an amazing thing. Wouldn't it be great to be in that position? And my 9-year-old eyes were wide open, and I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to be this. Well, guess what? I didn't have the skill to yet. I had the work ethic for that. I had the passion for it. I didn't have the skill for it. I gave it everything I could with what I had, and it wasn't enough. Was it disappointing at 14 to find out that you're not going to be able to be an NHL player when you grew up as a kid thinking maybe it's possible? Yes. It's tough. It hurts. But, my parents eased me into it. And they said, what's your backup plan? Because it's very hard to do that, and they didn't say, you're not good enough, you're terrible, you stink, you're not going to be able to make it. Or, yeah, you might be the best on this team, but you're not going to be the best in the state or the best in the country or whatever. They didn't do that. They just said, it's highly unlikely that you're going to make it. When I was old enough to realize, now when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, it's a different story. You encourage it. But as kids get older, you start to tell them that, yeah, all right, this is a long shot. This is not something that's going to be real easy to do. So, and that's what my parents did. And then I realized it. As I get older, I said, look, I'm not as good as a lot of these other guys, and it's not in the cards. Now, it's easy for me to say it now. Didn't feel great then. And it's easy for me to talk about it as a parent, but it didn't feel great when I had to do those things to my kids. My daughter now, 14 years old, she wants to become a Division I softball player. It's probably not going to happen because there are hundreds of thousands of young girls and young women who want to be Division I athletes in any sport. And precious few will make that. And the odds of it being your child or my child is very slim. It just is. It's a fact. It's not, people are like, oh, my kid's really good. She's the best on the team. Well, you know what? There are 1,000 teams in the area. So now you got the best girl on every team. That's 1,000 girls right there. And then you're just talking about your area. What about, 50 miles away? What about other states? Now you're talking about hundreds of thousands of girls that are competing for that. So I'm not telling her don't go for it. I'm not telling her don't try. But I also tell her that the odds are very, very stacked against her because they are. And I want her not to be tremendously disappointed when the day comes where she's not going to be a Division I athlete. It's just very unlikely to happen. I have a niece. She skates. She's a phenomenal figure skater. Just absolutely incredible. But the odds of the Olympics are low. Why? Because she might be the best in her club. She might be the best in her city. But then there's the state. Is she the best in the state? Is she the best in the region? Is she the best in the country? Is she the best in US and Europe? I mean, now you're starting to talk about millions of people. the odds continue to drop and drop and drop. So if you are heart set on that's the only way my life is going to be worth anything, you are going to be very, very disappointed. Or you could say, all right, I gave it everything I had, and that in itself was an accomplishment, and I'm okay with that. I struggle with that personally. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not that guy. I need to, if this show doesn't do well, I'm disappointed. If I don't do well when I was in the gym, I've been injured from the car accident, I haven't been able to get in the gym. But when I was, if I didn't lift a certain amount of weight, I was disappointed. I am definitely a all in person. I'm, pedal to the floor. I'm trying to get out of it. I'm trying to work myself into saying, all right, just do the best you can. And that's going to have to be enough. And it is. Otherwise, I can tell you from experience, it's going to be misery. It's going to be misery. And that's what you don't want. You don't want to be sitting in misery. And again, other people's opinions. I talked to a friend of mine, and I wouldn't say she chastised me, but she said, there's a problem, or it could be a sign of lack of confidence or insecurity to be a people pleaser. Well, in some ways, I do want to be a people pleaser, and I'm not sorry for it. I don't need to defend it. I don't think it makes me immature. I'm not a people pleaser to the point where I'm going to always do whatever anybody wants. That's a pushover. There's a difference. But if I can make somebody feel happy and do something to make somebody happy, that makes me happy. So for me, that's worth it. And if that makes me a people pleaser, then that's okay. I'm not going to defend it. I'm not going to fight with somebody and say, well, no, I'm confident. And, at first it was a punch in the gut. I told her it was a gut punch to hear that. And I didn't like it. And it really annoyed me. And then I thought about it more. I'm like, why did it annoy me? I mean, why? So what? Okay. So she thinks I'm a people pleaser. And I am in some ways. And I like to be. So I'm going to keep being a people pleaser. I'm not going to change. So it's disappointing to feel like you've thought a certain way. You have a mindset that you believe in. It's your life's. It's a mold for your life that you've given for yourself, and then for somebody to question it, it is a gut punch, even if it's slightly true or possibly even half true. One of the things that I've heard people say is, do you do good because it's for someone else, or do you do good because you feel good about it? Why can't it be both? Why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't I feel good if I don't disappoint someone? If I'm able to make them happy? So the whole thing about this, as we wrap up, is that there are levels of disappointment. If you date somebody for a month and you break up, you're disappointed. If you date somebody for 5 years and you break up, or you get divorced like I did after 20 years, yeah, it's a lot harder to take. It's not the same thing. It's not just disappointment anymore. It's severe sadness. It's devastating. But that's the difference. I mean, you have to distinguish what it is that you can tolerate as disappointment, and what it is that is beyond disappointment. That's tragic or very, very sad or debilitating. Hopefully not. And again, to teach your kids that disappointment's natural, but you don't have to concoct it, and you don't have to beat it to death to make them understand depression, or I'm sorry, disappointment, because like depression can come from that too, of course. So just something to think about. And again, I have a camera in my face. I have a microphone. That does not make me an expert. Just like all the other stuff that you see on YouTube, all the podcasts and everything else, some of them have good points. Some of them have points that are ridiculous. And it's up to you to decide what is ridiculous and what is something that you think it has merit. All right, so that's going to wrap up You as a Whole, Body, Mind, and Soul for this week. I will see you next week, right before Thanksgiving, and I'll come up with another topic. So it'll be off the top of my head, I promise. All right, have a good week, everybody.
Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? In a world quick to judge, one book dares to reveal the hidden cost of silence. Discover Holy but Harmful, The Silent Sin of Judgment, How Hidden Judgments Destroy Relationships and Damage Lives by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. The Amazon #1 bestseller that's transforming the way we understand ourselves and the way we see others. Pick up the companion workbook to uncover your own hidden judgments and learn how to break free from them. Available now on Amazon and at fine bookstores worldwide.
Every woman carries a story of strength, of purpose, of light. Through her courage, the world is transformed. Through her grace, generations are inspired. This is Iconic Women. Within Every Woman Lives a Goddess, a celebration of brilliance, beauty, and empowerment. Join us every Wednesday at 11 a.m. New York, 4 p.m. London time. Only here on USA, Global TVR, and radio. Featuring the iconic Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, honoring voices that shine across the world. Subscribe to our YouTube channels, USA Global TV and Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, to watch and engage with all our content. World-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions. Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.